Hi, people of God, people of God. This is my first 5-minute video, and it's actually been requested of me, okay? I actually do some series on Instagram, so if you're here from Instagram, hi. Or if you're new here, you'll see a few of those videos on Instagram. But I've been getting a few calls that people wanted me to start a Bible study or etc. And I've just not been able to get the time mapped out for that yet. But at least I wanted to give a 5-minute word of encouragement to those maybe in high school, college, those young adults, people who are just starting their journey with Christ and and want encouragement on this road, right? From somebody that is around their age. So before I get started, I want to share my background so you can know how I got here. And maybe you'll relate to a lot of what I'm saying so you don't feel so far off, because we're never too far off from God, okay? So I've grew up in church my entire life. I grew up in a Baptist church, and then I relocated to Houston. I'm from Mississippi. I relocated to Houston, and over the years, my mom has had us in deliverance ministries or little small churches across. And my mom is also a minister, right? She's ordained and she's an apostle, and she does this. So, hi, Mom. She's probably super excited. But the background of me is, over the majority of my life, I've pretty much struggled with depression, anxiety, fitting in, insecurities. At one point, I was doing marijuana. I was smoking marijuana. I've had premarital sex, and I was living a fast life. And this was anywhere from maybe high school to college, right? And hanging around the wrong groups of people, getting myself in some situations. I did struggle with abuse as well. And that is the journey that got me here. So I remember back in 2018, it was my fall semester before I graduated. And I remember telling God, God, I'm not going to live a good life. I'm not going to live a righteous life. I'm tired. By this time, I was arguing with my family all the time. My mom and her were butting heads. I wasn't really true in my identity at that point. I was struggling with academics at that time. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career. And I just felt like every time I would get into a relationship, it would go so sour, so fast. And it just took a toll on me, an emotional toll on me, and a mental toll on me, sometimes financially. And I was just like, you know what, God, I'm done. I'm done. So I was crying in my bedroom, and I remember so vividly that God came in my bedroom, and it was like a foggy presence in this room. It was so foggy. I was crying. I couldn't really see what was going on. And the voice of God, so loudly, I cannot forget it. He said, "Choose ye this day who you will serve." And I'm like, he said, "Choose ye this day who you will serve." I said, well, I choose you. I choose you. I'm crying. I'm like, I'm already at the end of the road, God. I only got you now, So that was it. And it became silent. And each day after that, my life completely changed. I cannot make this up. It completely changed, and it started turning around. I remember by October, I had 2 job offers. I had an internship for my next semester, and I also had a full-time role after I graduated. And this is 6 months before I graduated. So God started opening up some things, right? And then I started going on the journey of therapy. Dr. Eve is my therapist, and she's also our spiritual mother, my mom's spiritual mom, and she's literally right on the money, right? And I started going to therapy with her, and we started unpacking and unloading all of this stuff. And I realized that the entire time I was blaming the world for my problems, and I realized that it was actually me. That I actually had control over my life. I had control over situations and circumstances. I had control over what I accepted, what I did, how I thought, what I thought. I had that control. I had no control over people, but I did have control over me. And that started changing my mindset. This process, I won't say it was quick. This took years and years and years. I'm still going through the process of just being who I am, who God called me to be. And on this journey with God, I'm sorry, but it's continuous. It doesn't stop. You always find something new to learn, new revelations, and that's just the journey with your Father. And my life completely changed, right? And of course, when your environment starts changing and stuff starts happening good, we're all like, yay, I'm so happy. But let me tell you, therapy is not easy. If anyone tells you going to therapy is easy, I don't know if they've been to the right therapist, because every time I would go into therapy, I would lay it all out, right? Lay out all of my problems, all of my concerns. And by the end of it, she would give me feedback and an assignment. And the thing about this is, over the next week, you're dealing with that assignment. You're dealing with that trauma. You're dealing with that pain. And you're dealing with all those things you never wanted to deal with. That was putting you in the position of wanting to not be who God called you to be. All those limitations, all those insecurities, all of those disbeliefs, that was molding us into who we weren't ever supposed to be. And at this point, I would always ask God, I'm like, God, I want to change. I want to change. I want to change. But how do I change? I was asking God this for 10 years. I've been praying since probably the age of 12 or 13. And each time I would go to God, I would always ask him, God, I want to change. I want to be better. I want to do better. And it was 10 years later where I got that answer. And I realized the change came with me making a decision to do better. And it started as slow as my temper. I had a temper. I was angry, right? I was hurt. All of this is founded in the same sin, right? Angry and hurt and hasty. It started with speeding. I had many speeding tickets. I started slowing down on the road. Then it started with how I spoke to people, how I interacted with people. It was no longer with aggression or I had to be right. No, I was now listening and understanding and waiting to respond. And God slowed me down a little bit. And then I started building boundaries, healthy boundaries. And I started speaking about how I felt and not just holding it in and bottling it up. And this process helped me to get where I am today. And now I can say that, I'm working to operate in the fruit of God's Spirit. And you can too. I'm no different than you. I have probably the similar or same background as most people. I'm not any saint. I'm literally just a believer in God, who God has redeemed and set free. And that's what I want for you. So I know I'm going a little over, maybe 2 minutes over here. But on this series, we're going to talk about the Word of God, how to implement that Word of God, how to change, and changing our mind. I'm telling you, your mindset is going to change your life. Come back next week.